Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody, and welcome on into the Dragon Den. Uh, Hello, Bionic. Hello, Pezliz, Creatix Brit, Zombie, Hybrid Robotics, Royal Nomi. If I've missed you, it's because I haven't seen you say something in chat. But welcome on in. Thank you for subscribing for 4 months, Creatix Brit. Thank you for your gift sub. Did I gift you a sub to the channel, Creatix Brit, or did I gift you a sub to a different channel? Yes, that's my question there. Hey, Kenneth 3D Prince, welcome on in. Nick, welcome in. Subscribe to Tier 1 for a total of 4 months. Welcome. Thank you, Nick. Welcome. Thank you for the subscribe. And if you've got coffee, 'tis the season. Salute. Hey, Shaudel, how are you doing? I was a little bit running ragged here right before the stream, so I haven't validated that my side camera here is actually looking at the bench and not anywhere else. So I'll have to do that here in a second when we get started. But yeah, so I tend to keep a box, standard box from, I think this is from, this was Capricorn. So this must have been when I got some Capricorn filament. And this box, let me just cover the label. So box is empty, right? But it's a decent sized box that was filled with little pieces of brim. Because I've been printing all of my parts with PCABS, and a couple of my bigger parts for the K3 warped. So my big Z motor mounts here, one of them's good, 2 of them warped, and I didn't have brims on them. So I've got to reprint a couple of these. And so I've been using brims on everything, which means I've got to get brims off of everything. And besides tearing up my thumbs, so whoever has to do my fingerprints is going to be having a joy there. Hey, thank you for the, oh wow, we're on a level 1 hype train already. Awesome. Holy cow. Thank you for the biddies there, Hybrid Robotics. 10 bits to get the hype train started. And so anyhow, I had a full box, and it was sitting on my stool here as I was trying to clean some parts before the stream. And I knocked the box off the stool, which means now I had a pile of stuff all over the carpet. So I had to rush out real fast and try and vacuum up before the stream. Okay, and thank you for 10 more bits there, Hybrid Robotics. Awesome. So a couple of subs. I see Pezliz cheered 100 bits as well. Thank you, Pezliz, for all those biddies. Da Vinci, welcome on in. Yeah, this is a great way to start a stream. I'm running around ragged, trying to get ready for the stream because I'm spilling things and making a mess and having to clean up, and then we start off with a hype train. So thank you guys. That's awesome. Great way to start the stream. And as you noticed, we will be starting the Annex Engineering K3 build today. It's going to be an intense build. It's a little bit different than the normal stuff that we've done. So I'm glad to see all the hype. Thank you, Pezliz, for 10 more biddies and the wonderful heart-shaped biddies. Those are always awesome. Big hearts to you. Big hearts to you. And Royal Nomi, talking about big hearts. How's that big heart of yours doing? Is yours doing good there, Royal? I hope so. And how's your watch doing? Have you got it all figured out? I know my watch keeps telling me I need to stand, and your watch keeps telling you to sit. So we might have to like swap watches or something. Oh, I know you can't help me on this build, but I've got Poity. So if you don't know Poity, Poity reached out to me and was saying, hey, you know, if you need help with the K3, let me know. I guess he got one of the K3 kits from Fabrico. Started working through it, got it built, provided a whole bunch of notes to Hector over at Fabrico, and Hector says, great, you're part of the staff. It's an unpaid position. And so he's been helping to get the kits a little bit better. So Poity did reach out and said, you know, well, he'll help me out if I need any help. And he did remind me that my Sherpa mini extruder, I have to mirror it because of the way it sits. So it has to be mirrored. So I was like, oh, duh. So I had to get one of those. And the good thing is I'll get to watch Zombie make all the mistakes on his Micron build. So when I do my Micron build, it should just be like boom, boom, 3 streams, we're done, right? The watches mean it tells me to sit down too much. You got another husband? It's something else that nags you. I get it. Mine tells me, like I said, I sit at my desk a lot for work, and it tells me to stand up every hour. But at the same time, that's the one ring that I close on my watch every day is my stand ring. So you finally figured out a version of this robot that I have all the files for. You slice them and have started printing them. Which robot are you building, Hybrid Robotics? Uh-oh. Then we missed the train. The train's long gone. Mistakes. Opportunities for unbuilding and rebuilding into a better, more rigid structure. Does that sound better, Zombie? It says my heart is too high. It suggested meditation apps. You know what, Royal Nomi? I will tell you this. I work for Cisco, and that's one of the things they did do is they have like some meditation apps that we can get. And believe it or not, you know, mindfulness and meditation, it does kind of help you reset a little bit. And then I find listening to, and I found out about Enigma and Enya like way early in my Air Force career at tech school when one of my fellow airmen introduced me to them. And every night I go to sleep listening to one of those two because it's just so calming. So if you give me nature noises, I may or may not fall asleep. I may have to be sitting up like I'm in a tree stand and then I'll fall asleep. But yeah, mistakes? No. Mistakes equal content. Rebuilding means more opportunities to show people what to do and how to do it. Your extruder's on the fritz, but a great friend is sending me a custom tool head he built for me. Wish us luck. All right, Da Vinci. Yeah. Pitbot, because it's printed in place. I could print the entire robot as a single print if I wanted, and I think I've seen the Pitbot because that's the one that's tracked, but it prints laying down, and then you fold it up and the tracks interlink. If I remember right. Your Headspace app almost every day? Yep. Yes, Enya, Enigma. I listen to those two a lot for sleep and relaxation. Every failure brings more content. That is true. And, you know, every once in a while, releasing the magic smoke gets you more clicks, especially if somebody clips it and posts it. Just don't release the magic smoke on expensive parts. And speaking of nice, expensive parts, let's check this other camera out here and see how the angle's going. I might have to adjust. Oh, it's not too bad. Not too bad. We'll move it down here a little bit because when we start working on the frame, it's going to be right here. But we did want to show off something new that has recently arrived. So for those of you that know, this is the new Leviathan board. I have not even opened it up though. This is an LDO Motors controller board. This is a pretty cool board. I don't know what I'm going to put it in. It's not going to go in the K3 because the K3 is going to get some Constellation Supernovas. But I did get my hands on one of these. I also have a couple of Orbiter 3 Smart Orbiter 3s coming and a Revo Roto. So pretty nice. We got some cables, some standoffs, and the board itself. And you may have seen these boards over on Chris's stream, and I'm gonna have to cut this open, hopefully without scoring the board. Bear with me. There we go. There's your Leviathan board. This has 5 TMC 2209 motors, and then the 2 over here are 5160s. So these are the higher voltage motors. So I'd use this for like Z's and extruders, and then you would use these 2 over here for your gantry, like your X and Y, to get your higher printing speeds out. And then this area right here, unlike like the Manta boards where you would mount like a CM4 or a CB1 module, this right here allows you to mount a full Raspberry Pi or a Raspberry Pi Zero, or an alternative that uses the same bolt pattern on top of the board here. And so it reduces the overall footprint of your MCU and your host controller by stacking your host controller on the board. Best Core XY printer that won't break the bank, and why? Well, that depends, Kenneth 3D Prints, on what your goals are for the printer. Because I will tell you that I love my Rook 2020. Okay? I will also tell you that I have a bugaboo that I put together out of spare parts in an Ender 3 bed that is also rock solid, and I've got no complaints out of that. And like I said, I used spare parts that I had on the bench, and I'm probably into it for about 300 bucks. I also got with these a cool KB3D sticker. And I say cool because it's literally got snowflakes on it. This is his Christmas stickers. And the Leviathan board comes with a 10 amp fuse, if I remember right, for the bed. And everybody says that that's too high for the bed, that you could run into issues. So he started supplying additional 7.5 amp fuses for the bed, so you can swap that one out. So yeah. So we'll have a Leviathan board that we'll be able to use for a build down the road. Who knows what we'll put it in. And then the other thing that we've got here, besides of course the K3 build that we're going to get started, is a package that came in from Fabrico. You're looking to get away from beds. You're just looking to get away from bed slingers. Goodness gracious. Okay. So once again, if depending on what size you're looking for, if you're fine with a smaller size, and like I said, a Rook 2020 or even a Bugaboo will not set you back much, and they're really good. In fact, the Bugaboo, do we have a link to the Bugaboo? There you go. Thank you, Zombie, for throwing that out there. So the Rook 2020 is very nice and extremely stable. And since it's the 2020 frame, there are so many things that you can use to enclose it, to modify it, because you're now into a 2020 ecosystem, right? With the Bugaboo, it's still a 2020 frame. It uses triple lead screws, but it's one motor. So it's a belted Z. And I built one of those on stream. It's a great printer. It's an Ender 3 size. So the Rook 2020 is a 120 cubed about print size. There are other variants. There's the Bugaboo, and there's two sizes of the Bugaboo now, if I remember right. But the Bugaboo's more of a Ender 3 bed size, so that's 235 by 235. And it works perfectly great. I was printing all my Toys for Tots out on it. That and the Rooks. So they've been sitting on the kitchen or on the dining room table, printing off Toys for Tots parts that we took down to the local drop-off yesterday when I went into town to go to a coworker's 25-year celebration. So exactly. You can make it go fast, and if you want to add extra cooling, you can do the static cooler ducts on the sides and slap some 120 fans on them. In fact, I've got a pair here I can slap on one of those 2 or 3 printers that I have. I just didn't think it needed it because I'm not going to run it super duper fast and make it like walk off the table. Yeah. So one of the other things, let me go ahead and switch back over here. So one of the other things that came in, Fabrico was kind enough to send these. These are Honey Badger branded. These are aluminum, two color aluminum, so they stand out, motor mounts. And these are specifically designed for the LDO Longboy motors that we'll be using on this build. So yeah, this will take place of printed parts, and a lot of the issues that people have with the printed parts on the K3 is with the higher temps, and especially the higher temps of the Longboy motors. If you're running them at 48 volts and trying to go for speed, they start melting their printed motor mounts. So by having the aluminum, it's going to, one, you're not going to have sag or melting of the printed part because it's aluminum. And then two, because it's aluminum, it's going to kind of act like a heat sink for the motor as well to help draw heat off the motor and into the frame a bit. So these are, these are gorgeous. Well machined. Nicely anodized. So we've got a set of 4 here that we will get into and use as we do the build. But I just wanted to show those off because those just came in yesterday afternoon. We'll set those over there out of the way for now. A CNC rook bed. Define a CNC rook bed, because my rooks all use CNC beds. Or are you talking about a So you can actually run it as a CNC versus a 3D printer. And an ad break's going to come up in less than a minute. So we are going to get started on the frame. Okay. CNC bed mount. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. That makes more sense. So we're going to use 8 of the 280 millimeter extrusions and 4 of the 385 millimeter. And we're getting ready to have an ad break. Hopefully I don't miss out on too many people. But I'm going to go full screen to show this. But if you look on here, you'll see that there's one set of holes that's offset a bit. There's another set that's low, and then it shows a third set here. There's no third set anymore. So we'll have the so we'll have a hole at the bottom and a hole further up here. And this is the bottom of the extrusion. This is the top of the extrusion. There's no other hole here on these extrusions. And I believe it was just deleted out between the Rev 1.1 and the Rev 1.2. So just be aware of that. It was kind of throwing me, but this does measure out to the 385 millimeters. So I know that we're good. Looks like the ad break just started. We got a nice hardware kit. I did open everything up where there is a single item in the thing. If there's multiples, I left them in their baggies. And there are like 3 different sizes of heat, or 3 or 4 different sizes of heat set inserts that we'll use in this build. So, and as with anything, we're going to be using a lot of Loctite. So it calls out like VC3 or something else like that. There's a couple of different ones that they call out. I think that's going to be more of, I don't know if it's a European thing or what have you. But yeah, it calls out VC 125 or similar. I don't know what that is. I'm just going to use my standard blue Loctite. And we're going to put in M5 by 16 screws. So my M5 by 16s are here. Nope, these are not button heads. These are socket heads. M5 by 16 socket heads. So there was different sets of screws that came in the kit. And so I initially had started to open those up and was kind of mystified because I'm like, there's not a whole lot of screws here for this kit. And then I realized there was another full set. And I think this is for the main part of the kit. And these screws are primarily going to be for the actual frame, I believe. So I'll just have to verify my screw size real fast. Yep. We're probably going to use all of these. So let me just dig a bunch of them out. You want to use button heads here, and I'm probably going to use Steve Build's trick of putting a washer underneath the heads of the screws to make them make the extrusions not twist as we're putting this together. So we got that. We're going to grab this. And I'm going to use my own M5s because I've got plenty of them. And what we're going to do is one on each side of all 8 of these. Yeah, small printers are fun, and you can put more of them in your available space than you can with your bigger ones. I know this because I'm running out of space. And the Bugaboo is a pretty good printer. The hardest part of the Bugaboo was finding the closed loop belt for the Z-axis. I wound up using a little bit larger size, and with that I had a I had an extra piece of small extrusion that I cut to enable me to do a tensioning mechanism for the belt to make up that extra slack. But that is a rock solid printer, and once you get your bed leveled and trimmed, I haven't had any issues at all with it. And I believe there is a mod. It may not be a direct out there, but it's probably a mod DaVinci because I believe I've seen one out there for the underbed. You'll probably have to look at the remixes under the actual Rook 2020. Yeah, the nice thing with some of these printers is if you're building a design, especially like a Bugaboo or a Rook or something like that, and you have to self-source your parts over time, it's really, take your time, self-source your parts. Look for deals or wait for deals, and you want to get some streaming gear first. I hear you there. Hey, Mini Bice, how are you doing? Oh, thanks, Mini Bice. Yeah, so on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do one build, and on Saturdays, I'm doing the build for Chewy's. So that's his 2.4 build, and we've got the main printer build done on the salad fork, and it's sitting on the floor right underneath my desk right now. I need to bring it back up here And I've got it fully enclosed now, so I need to bring it back up here and do some high temp printing with it and get it broken in that way. But so far it's printing great. I'm going to test out some different things on it. I was planning on doing the micron, so I have all of the printed parts done for the micron. And I opened up and asked what everybody wanted to see, and everybody said they wanted to see the K3. So I will be doing the K3, and I believe Zombie's going to be starting his micron build soon. So you'll be able to see Zombie's micron build in the late evenings. And then at some point, I've got a Micron Plus, so the 180 Micron Plus, a Voron Trident 350 with several bells and whistles, and the V01 that I have in the corner is going to get rebuilt and, you know, different colored parts, but it's going to get rebuilt as a V02. Because after doing the V02 for Free Heathen, there's a few things in there that I would like to have on my own machine. So hopefully tonight you're going to start at Zombie. Nice. Yeah, we'll see if I'm able to catch too much of it. My showtime for tomorrow for my cataract surgery on the left eye is 7 a.m. So that means we have to be up and out of the house about 6 in the morning to get there. So, yeah. And then afterwards, if it goes the way it did after the right eye, I'm going to be pretty much sleeping most of the day. And KB3D Chris mentioned on his stream Sunday that I think he's going to be sending the black box kits out soon. So to those of us that are getting the black box kits, where we're going to be beta testing that new build loadout and documentation, these aren't the public kits, but we'll be able to get those, and we just may have to dig through the CAD a little bit more on those. The black box kits. So the black box is a machine that was by Layer XYZ, I believe was the team that was doing it, and it is a 300 by 300 cubed built with 4040 and 2040 and 2020 extrusion, and it is a water cooled 5-head tool changer. So, okay, now we're going to start with one of our frames, and once again, the top has the hole closer to the end of the extrusion. The bottom has the hole up a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide this in there. And we're going to use another extrusion. And that's going to enable us to set our gap, because this is setting a full extrusion length off of the bottom of the extrusion. So we're going to basically pull this in onto the bottom of this extrusion while pushing these down against the block, and that'll give us our nice reveal so that we can tighten this extrusion up. And I might kind of use the edge here to keep this straight. Put this up against the bottom. Hold this here. Tighten that. I'm going to verify the inside looks good. Now, it wants us to do this end as well. I think I'm going to hold off on that end and do this other side first. In which case, let me grab a shorter piece of extrusion that I can use as that blocking piece. Because I know there's a couple of shorter pieces in here. So we're basically going to do the same thing. Grab another upright. Slide it down through there. Line things up. Tighten it. Verify that we're still straight and square here. Now I can flip this over. Take the other one that's got the two screws at the end. Slide it in. Get my washers in the right place. There we go. Once again, I'm going to use my block because I want to make sure it's nice and flush at the top. And then we can work on, we can verify the squareness after we get this locked in place. There we go. And we have one side frame done. We'll repeat this and then we'll join them together. I'll just set this down there for the time being. And we'll go through and do the same thing again. Grab our piece, slide in there, use another piece of extrusion, and that's going to create our 20 millimeter gap so that the lower rail is going to be all at that 20 millimeter gap up. Just continue to check your squareness as you're working through this, because the squarer that you keep this now, the better off and easier off you're going to have trying to square your frame later on. Or it may be perfectly square depending on how good your build surface is. So and just taking a couple of minutes to verify that everything is square now, like I said, just pays dividends down the road when you're trying to square the frame up, and just the overall build quality gets that much better as everything is nice and square. You chase less issues down the road. The other thing you can do here is you can use your square on the inside and pull this down and just kind of use it as a flush top edge there across the two pieces. And that way you know you're locking in square against the block and flush against the top, which is definitely what we're looking for, is everything to be square and flush. So once again, we get the square set in here nicely. Then we take this and run it against the top, and then we can just basically squish and pull everything in together. And that will ensure that everything is locked nice and tight in there when we tighten that screw up. And everything is flat. And everything is nice and tight and flush. And now, we're basically going to do the same thing, but using this as an upright. That's weird. Apparently I missed putting in a screw. I will have to add a screw here real fast. And let me find another M5x16. M5x10s. I know I have plenty of M5x16s. I just need to go grab one. That's weird. Hey, 3D Medic Vince, welcome on in. Nick, nothing special. What's that? The black box, Nick? Yeah, squareness is going to be super, super important. So this is a slightly different kinematic. So this is a cross gantry. This is not a core XY. This is a cross gantry printer. So the tool head is physically connected in both the X and the Y. So I dropped that and I dropped the washer. So we'll find the washer later. When I'm not looking for it, it will jump out at me. So yeah, this basically acts like a standard Cartesian, but like I said, the tool head is physically connected to the X and the Y axes. Okay. That side's there. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the top side in now. That way when I add the others, no, I'll hold off. I'll do the other side first, and then we'll add the top in. That way I'm not having to slide this up and down the full length, because I don't want to scratch up my pretty um, aluminum sides here, because that would make me cry. This Silverstone gray is gorgeous. Okay. So we've got these two joined down here. Now we're going to bring our piece in at the top. Oh my God. Sorry, folks. Somebody's getting chatty on Discord and starting to blow up my ears. Probably zombie hedgehog. Once again, the block in the middle, this across the top, just kind of push and pull everything together. And that way we're flush at the top. We're at a 90-degree angle as we tighten in the screw, which is going to keep all of that nice and tight. We'll do the same thing on this side. Extend this out, make sure everything's nice and flat. Basically pull and squish it together. And tighten that edge up. Sorry. Tighten that edge up. So the assembly PDF will be part of the files that you'll download, or at least they were, when I did it, they were part of the download off of printables. Joking about the black box. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Nick, for providing that. You're looking at the Micron kit? What's wrong with your Micron kit? Oh, that's what you're working on right now, is you're looking at your Micron kit trying to get ready for your stream tonight? Probably not a bad idea. Make sure you have a few things laid out ready to go. Okay. Just we're up here at the top, so we're going to put our square in. We're going to put our other short piece of extrusion there so that we can kind of do the squish to hold everything tight in a 90 degree. Lock that in. Slide the side around. And like I said, right now, if now's the time to make changes, if you don't think things are aligned right, or if they're not like setting right for you, now is the time to be extra picky, rather than later when it might be harder to fix things. And then when you start working on things like the micron, you really have to pay attention, because in that sense, you'll have oops, you do it this way. You'll have 15-15 extrusions. Whoops, ad break. Okay, ad break's done, and you all are back. Sweet. So, on things like the micron, the solid fork, anything that's based on a V0 and 15-15 extrusions, you really need to be cognizant and make sure that you load up any screw or any nuts that you're going to need to. And that's where it becomes imperative to plan ahead, right? Because if you're doing modifications, you need to get those loaded ahead of time, unless you're using like an LDO frame, or a Masumi frame, because it's got a channel more akin to this. Whoops, where you've got kind of the V-shaped shallow bottom, so you can use the slightly modified square nuts that LDO has for dropping them in. But if you're using a maker beam where your profile, each edge of your profile looks like a plus sign, you're not going to be able to add any nuts in afterwards without taking the frame apart. So you really have to look at some things like that. And so now what we need to do is grab your measuring device, and I prefer something that's, I mean, yes, this bends and flexes, but that's metal. I don't want to do corner to corner measurements using like a tape measure or something that's not semi-rigid or rigid, because it leads to, some sagging and some bad measurements. And something like this, it's floppy in this orientation, but if you set it up on edge, you're going to get, it's not going to sag, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn 20 millimeters. So rather than starting right at the end, I'm going to put the 20 right in the corner. And then I'm going to measure across to the other corner and see where I'm at. Um, 417. Start at 20 and go to 417. So I'm going to do the other corner. I'm going to start at 20. Pull this over, and I should be at 417, and I am. So that means my top is square. So my bottom should be square, right? Not necessarily. You'll want to double check that as well. Might be a little bit more difficult because you're not getting in there, but we're gonna do it as well. We're gonna go right there. Or 17. And 417. So our top and bottom is square. Now we're going to validate that our sides are square and they aren't racked. The same type of thing, find the corner with one end, and I'm doing the inside corner of these extrusions. You can do the outer corner. The thing is to just be consistent. Like if I wanted to measure from the outside edge of this to the outside tip of this, I could do that as well. It's just you got to be consistent in how you're choosing to measure and where you're measuring. So inner quarter, 20 to 448. Twenty to 448. Then on these, if you do, now that we know the top and bottom are the same, and I do two of the sides, and if these two are coming out the exact same, then the other two sides will be the exact same, because there's no way that they can be racked otherwise. So we've got a perfectly square base frame here. And if I set it down like this, it doesn't walk, it doesn't rock. If I turn it like this, it will rock. That's just my table. But we have now measured, and this measures square. Yeah. I mean, it's a frame. It's just like any other frame. It goes together pretty easily. I mean, to this stage, we just did everything that you would do on a boron, except we were raised up 20 millimeters at the base. We've got this 20 millimeter gap. That's the only difference between this and a 2.4 or a Trident frame right now. Right? You've got a cube. And we're back. Did I drop off? Has sneaking and lurking. Hey, Subsector, how are you doing? Stephen Poole, welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you guys for coming in. So we've been working on just getting our base frame for our printer set up, and we've got our base frame. We just measured everything out to make sure everything was squared. As we were putting things together, you'll notice that our base is offset 20 millimeters, which is the size of a 2020. So we used a short piece of 2020 and our 123 block, put that right up at the edge, and that enabled us to do a little push-pull technique to keep this flush as we tightened our blind nuts. Okay? And Subsector, when you go to, well, you put your frame together, one of the tricks that Steve Builds uses is you're putting your frame together with M5 by 16 nuts, or excuse me, M5 by 16 screws. And as you're screwing it in and tightening up, you'll notice that your the extrusion that you're screwing into has a tendency to try and rotate some. Okay? Use an M5 washer under the button head. And this is a little bit wider than the button head, and it prevents the rotation of that extrusion that you're tightening into. So that's a trick that I just used on this, and by using, you can use a piece of aluminum or you can use multiple pieces of this to try and keep things square, and basically you're just trying to square everything up. But a small piece of extrusion to help you get things flush, and a 1, 2, 3 block, and you will be golden. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 blocks, clamps. Because I know Daniel, when he was doing his one frame, would actually clamp down, the joint. He would use a clamp and clamp that down on the table or the bench. Well, because of the way my bench is, I can't clamp to it, but I do make sure and verify that I am nice and flush. And you can do that once again by taking a piece of extrusion and sliding it over and see if it rocks. Just run it over the two extrusions and see if it rocks. But we are nice, we're square. We validated the corners top and bottom. And then we validated two sides that they're the same. And that would guarantee that the other two, because we know we're not racked here, and we know we're not racked on two sides, which means we're not racked on the other sides. Exactly, Zombie. And if I ever do get a different table than this, then that's what I would use. And if I clear out the stuff that's in my garage, namely the plane project, and get to the point where the missus kicks me down there for a lot of it, we may start doing builds down in the garage. Now we're going to install our linear rails, and this isometric view is a little weird. The rails are all mounted underneath. So we're going to put 4 rails in here. So we're going to take the printer, flip it upside down, and we'll take the frame, set it upside down, and we're going to mount 4 rails, linear rails here. Okay? And those linear rails are 250 millimeter long MGN9Cs. And we've got 4 of them. And if you look, you can see that there's grease and goop in here. And this was greased through one of the mount holes. So we are going to get some of our paper towels out here. And we're going to work on opening these up. We might actually put some gloves on. And if you have a Harbor Freight or Princess Auto near you, because I hear Harbor Freight is basically known as Princess Auto up in Canada, keep an eye out. When these gloves go on sale, which is normally all the time right now, when COVID was there, they were paying the butt. Go out and just buy a bunch of these boxes. If you're resin printing, you probably already have, but if you don't resin print and you just build printers, go get a bunch of these. It really comes in handy when you're dealing with some of these rails, even the ones that are pre-lubricated, because they more often than not lubricate the carriages through the back of a rail, which means look at all the grease and crap that's on here that you would be getting all over your hands right now just by taking it out of the package. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these out. And then kind of clean up the rails. Just so I don't get it all over the place. And then we'll check the carriages, because I've heard some horror stories where, yes, they squirted in and filled up that hole, but when they looked at their rails, there really wasn't anything in the carriage balls themselves. So even on the ones that are pre-lubed, it's worth double checking. Oh, and subsector, that box that I was going to send to you, it is packaged and ready to go. I just need to get it to the post office. So we will work on getting that in the next day or two. So I do want to grab another paper towel just to wipe off, like I said, the excess goop that is on the rails. I'm not going to dig out the excess lubricant that's there just yet, because I want to actually see if I need to use it. So if one of these carriages is bone dry or feels bone dry, then I'll just dig that out and use that same Mobilux to add to these balls. And now they look like they actually greased them pretty well. They run pretty good, so that's good. And what I'm drying off is the main edges. I'm trying not to dig down into the grooves. Now, if you've got them from China and they're just packed in a light oil, then yeah, wipe them off, then wipe them down with alcohol, and do try and get down there, use your finger and just dig down in there to get them all clean, and then grease them properly, because you do want to get some grease down in this channel. And then, like I said, normally I will take and wipe them down with a little bit of my 3-in-1 PTFE lubricant once I get them mounted. And that's really just because you'll get rails from AliExpress or Amazon that are on the less expensive side, and they say they're stainless steel, and that's great until you realize they're not. And you realize it when you've now had a rusted rail and it's rusted down in here, and now you've got issues and you're replacing rails because they're trashed and they've trashed your carriages. So just be aware if you're getting them from a reputable place like Honey Badger, the Berserker rails from West 3D, the rails that you're getting from LDO and like KB3D and stuff. They say they're stainless steel, and they're stainless steel. But if you're buying them from AliExpress and they're going, oh, these are stainless steel, well, they may be, but they're not a high quality stainless steel. So just be aware you might need to might need to validate for yourself. Okay. Go ahead and get a stopper back on there. Look at this one as well. I'm just going to go ahead and look at all of them and make sure that they've got grease down in there appropriately. They do. That's two that do. You can wipe the excess off the carriage. You know, the main flats of the rail. And I'll go and dig out this excess. And I'm just using an end to dig out, you know, a lot of the goop. And at some point, I may just, rather than wipe it on a paper towel, it might be beneficial to just take it and put it into one of my empty syringes. I do these enough. Well, dang it. Hmm. Two done. On to the third. Um, they might be. I don't know, subsector. I just know that I've had some issues, and it's better safe than sorry on some of that. You know, if it's not coming from a known good vendor, and you don't, uh, it's cheap insurance, right? It's a couple of drops of oil and just wipe the metal. You're not trying to get a whole bunch of oil on there. You just want a thin coat. You know, just like a gun. You know, most guns are, you know, have a Cerakote on them or something like that. You still wipe them down with a silicone based lubricant just to make sure that, you know, nothing causes any undue wear and or any undue um, corrosion, right? It's just something you do. And I expected these to be good. Like I said, I just heard some rumblings in the Discord, and I don't know how old it was, that there was some issues with some of the first kits that, there were dry balls. So it's worth taking a quick look to make sure that the grease that was injected, or the grease that was injected went into the appropriate location as expected. It's not that much time to check it. It's not that much time to dig out this excess so you don't have it heating up and running everywhere and possibly fouling prints. So just take a couple of extra seconds, do due diligence. Okay, clean things up. Alrighty. We've got 4 of our MGN 9C rails. We're going to mount those to the extrusion, ensuring they are centered. Leave a 15 millimeter gap on both the left and right sides. Use M3x8 screws with Vibra-Tite or similar adhesive, tightening them to 1 Newton meter. They actually give torque settings here of 1 Newton meter. I gave in and ordered a digital torque screwdriver. It's not going to get here till sometime on Thursday. So just remind me that on Thursday I need to go around and revalidate those. Hey, Timor, how's it going, my friend? Pezlis had a power nap. I do those, especially with my eye. There's times where my eyes will start getting strained from looking at the screen. And so I'll shut a light off. I'll lay down right here on the floor and just close my eyes. I'll think about work and things that are going on, but I have to close my eyes and take like a 20-minute break just to let my eyes kind of reset a little bit. That and using a lot of what do you call them, liquid tears or like Clear Eye or whatever, along with my medicated drops that I have to take at certain periods of time. Yep, Pezla is all powerful. We call it mindfulness, well-being. We took we took a mental break. We're doing well. Seven Seven Sins Gaming. We're doing well. We're working on our yeah, on that thing. We're working on our um, Annex Engineering K3 build. Um, we do have some alignment tools that we will be using, and this is why we have to look through the frame or the manual a little bit. What it's going to tell us to do is put a M5 at each end and then M3s. And we're going to do each, or excuse me, not each, we're going to do every other one in our roll-in T-nuts. Will actually work right in these frames if we put them in the right spot. And it looks like we're doing it with the hole towards the end. What are we? 1, 2, 3, 7. Once again, we'll work on our spacing, but we've got an M5 at the end and then the M3s. M5 at the end, and then we'll go into our M3s. And once again, we'll have some of our standard spacers. I should probably just stop printing out all of the MDN9 rail spacers, and I've got, I think every kit I print them off, and I'm like, I should stop printing those parts off, save some filament. We'll take one of our rails and Mini Badger stainless steel 9C EP2. Awesome. It actually says that they put EP2 Mobilux in these. So what I do is I tend to set this next to the frame, and then I will line up the M3 nut with every other hole. We'll slip this over on top of them. And we're just going to go ahead and get our M3 screws set up. And it does tell us to use our Loctite again. So make sure that you're using your Loctite. We need our M3x8s, which are where? Be a bunch of them. It's been a Monday of a Tuesday. Oh, Pez, you do not even know the half of it, but I will agree with you there. I'm just going to get a bunch of my screws out here so that I can be prepared. And I'm going to scoot over more towards you guys. So you can get a better look-see of what I'm doing. In case you wanted to. And once again, all we're going to do is get a little bit of our Loctite on the end of the screw. And we're just going to get the screws started so we can make sure and get everything lined up. I'm not trying to lock anything down just yet. Just get our screws aligned in the T-nuts. Then we'll get everything locked down once we get everything lined up. So this is a Loctite stick. works a lot better than having like the liquid Loctite, because the liquid Loctite, at least in my experience, I tend to get it everywhere, or I have to get like, I'll get like little plastic lids or something that I can put a little bit in, and then I'm dipping the edge of the, or the tip of the screw in it. It always feels like I wind up wasting more than I'm using when I use the, like the liquid Loctite. Um, there is an available bond. Give me 1 second and I will throw up the GitHub link. That'll have all of the files. There is a version 1.1 and a version 1.2. I am using the version 1.1. Well, I'm using the 1.2 files, but if you use the GitHub, the CAD and the build manual that you see me showing right here is all under the release 1.1 files. The 1.2 is really, I think, changes in some of the printed parts. But yeah, we're going to follow along with the manual as much as possible. And if we need to, I'll say deviate, or if we need verification, then I will pull up the CAD. Now we need a 15 millimeter spacing. From each end. Oops, let me get the last screw in before I try and move it around, because that would just suck. I'm trying to eyeball this as best I can. I have who we have here. Go build a screw bolts to the rescue. We've got a measuring device in millimeters. It starts at the end and it's small enough that I can put this right up against the end and see where we're at. And we're good. I need at least 15 millimeters on each end. So if I'm at 15 on one and 15 and a shade on the other, we're good. We're going to set these in there and lock that rail in side to side. And then the same old, same old. Start in the middle. And I'm just going to snug them up. I'm not torquing them yet. I'm just snugging them up. I'm working from the center out. And that'll make sure that the rail, there's no bow. If I start from the outside and go in, I could actually lock the ends. And then when I go to push down in the middle and make it tight, it could literally cause a little bit of a bow. It's not going to be much, but it will mess with your rail. And I'm going to calibrate this to 1 Newton meter with my super calibrated wrist elbow. And then I'll verify it on Thursday when I get the torque wrench. If I need to add any more ugga dugga to it, I'll do it then. But there's one rail. And we'll just keep going around and doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, you definitely have a lot more control than you do with the liquid with the stick. Just seems to work out better. Oh, Boulder Dash. What was that? That was me putting all M5 T-nuts in instead of M3. And now I'm having to try and get all of them out again. That's why I got them out. I might as well put them in here if I'm going to have to anyhow. Yeah, so this is going to be a pretty complex build, Seven Sins Gaming. A little more in depth than what we've done in the past, even with our Vorons. Um, and it's really going to come in when we get to doing the carriage, the XY rails in the carriage, because you'll see a little bit more of the cross XY scheme that goes on with this build. So at least on your typical Core XY, um, your gantry in your tool head is only attached on the X gantry, and your X gantry is only attached to the Y gantry. Here, your tool head is attached to the X and Y at the same time. That's going to be a little weirder setup. So you're really going to have to make sure that your X and Y rails are really good and really square. So that's why it's going to be really important that we got our frame square, and we validated that before we went on to even start doing this part. Hey, Kit Skyfire, how's it going? Hope you are doing well. Huh. Shenanigans, welcome on in. How did your stream go today, Shenanigans? I saw you get online, but it was right around where I had a bunch of meetings hitting, so I didn't get to jump in. But you were redesigning your hydrogen something or other, right? Something to do with your hydrogen thing? I just know it sounded super cool, and I was bummed that I couldn't get on and see the stream. Okay, we are good there. We're Stop dropping the things that you need. Pop these off and put them there, and we're putting them over the open screws, so I know it's out of the way. And that's going to line that rail up side to side again, and again start in the center and just work our way out, just tightening things down. And I'm just snugging initially, and then I'll come through and apply the love. Trying to bake it better. Okay. I'm doing pretty good, Shenanigans. Little fun today at work and everything. There's some stuff going on at work, as there always is. So, hey, Chewy, how's it going? We're just going to keep working ourselves around here. Thank you for the resubscribe, Chewy, for 9 months. Wow, that is awesome. Thanks, bud. I don't have a mod in here tonight. Otherwise, I'd have somebody doing shout outs for me. We'll take a break here in just a second, and we're going to get a few sips of coffee, and maybe I'll throw some shout outs out there into the ether. Here's some shout outs for the wonderful, the awesome Teslas. We're going to shout out Zombie Hedgehog. Once again, check him out. I believe he's starting his Micron. Is it a Micron or a Micron Plus build? Zombie. Check out our good friend Shenanigans. He does all kinds of weird electrical projects. He's been dealing with a lot of conductive filament from, I believe, Protopasta lately. We've also got to give a wonderful shout out to our own little queen bee, Royal Nomi. And of course, a shout out to none other than Creatix Brit. He is an awesome designer in the community and does some really amazing cosplays. Make it until you make it, eh? Yeah. Yeah. Righty. Couple sips of coffee. Or one big long sip. And in real, got to build these awesomely fashion, I am putting all the rails on so that you could read them if you're inside the printer looking towards the outside. So they're all at least going in the same general direction. We all know that rails work better when they're aligned in a proper orientation. Red makes printers burr faster. Blue makes them slow down. Green makes them more efficient. You're welcome, Creatix Brit. And yes, Royal Nomi is the queen bee of our 3D printing community. She acts like the mom to most of us to help us keep our heads at certain times, and she can be that that aunt that everyone loves, especially when it comes to chilies. Will always be known as the chilies lady. DC gets lovingly referred to as the old man. The Royal. If you go to Rocky Mountain this year, and I just have to, you have to give me a heads up before you yell old man. Because it was so funny when you did that at Rocky Mountain last year. and like 30 people turned around and looked like, oh crap, I'm in trouble. Ooh, she got more presents. That's awesome. And was this her 3D printing wish list or her other wish list? Oops. So the tube that I am using is Loctite. It's a Loctite stick. Instead of using the standard blue liquid Loctite, because I find I wind up wasting a whole lot of this trying to do threads. And I saw Steve Bilge use one of these, and I was like, oh, that is so awesome. So, you know, 6.5 does the other. Use what you like to use, but that's all it is Loctite. Now, this particular manual calls out, I think, VC3 or VC125, and I've never heard of that. I'm assuming it's a brand or a formulation. So, yeah. And what I'm doing here is I'm just setting a 15 millimeter offset from each end. That's making sure my rail is centered, we'll say side to side in the extrusion or on the extrusion length. And then we're going to put in our guides, which are pretty good snap fit. And this is going to align the rail on the 2020 and center it in the 2020. Hey, welcome on in, Killers Junior 686. Welcome on in. Thank you for the follow. Tonight's project is the build of an Annex Engineering K3. We're going to get started on this process. It's going to definitely be multiple streams. I am applying an appropriate amount of Ugga-Duggas, hopefully near 1 Newton meter. This build actually calls out torque values depending on if you're going metal, 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 like we're doing right here. It's 1 Newton meter. And depending on the screw size. So if we do like 2 or 2.5 millimeters, or M2 or M2.5 screws going into plastic, it's like 0.25 Newton meter torque. So first time I've ever had a printer call out torque values like that. But we're going to get a digital torque screwdriver that will come in on Thursday, supposedly, if Amazon holds true. And that will allow us to at least attempt to match the suggested torque values. And who knows, maybe I'll use that on future printers as well. Uh-oh, doggy run, doggy run. Rolling with my Nomi shirt. That is awesome. Ad break is almost finished. For those of you that are not currently subscribed, you're not hearing this, but well, I'm not going to say that the stick is superior per se to it. I mean, it's Loctite. It's still going to work. If it's applied appropriately, it'll work just like other Loctite. I will just say that it's convenient and easier to use. The subsector. How's the Trident build going? Hopefully, it's going pretty good. You seem to be making some pretty good progress on that. Were you building that on stream, off stream, some type of mixture thereof? Yeah, you needed some M5 by 10 screws, right? So our friendo subsector there is working on a semi self-source, like non-kit Voron Trident, and KB3D is helping out, providing some of the parts. Um, And once again, this kit, I did buy this from Fabrico. And then he offered to send an additional Honey Badger 185 bed and a set of the aluminum CNC'd motor mounts. So we will be installing those. Hopefully we get to that section a little bit here soon and we can get those out and cracking today. That was pretty cool of him to offer those up. And there's a couple other things I may also go and pick up from him. And we'll take a look at the website here in a second, because after I get this kind of tightened down a bit, I am going to sit down for half a second and give my back a little bit of a rest. So, whoop, 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 whoop. We just snugged all these down and we're slightly off because we didn't check our 15 millimeters. Back this off so that we can move it. Once again, the first go around is just to snug it up, and then I come back and give it a little bit of an ugga-dugga to kind of torque it, and we'll validate the torque settings on all of these on Thursday once I get the torque wrench. There we are. We've got all 4 of those done. Exactly. When you go and buy screws, always buy a lot more than you need. And then that way you have plenty of screws, and then you just have more screws when you build the next printer. Yeah, I have 2 of those on pre-order. I have a E3D Revo Roto coming. I'm going to take a sit and we'll look at the manual here real fast. I've also got the new Leviathan board. This has 5 TMC 2209s and 2 5160s built into the board. We looked at this a tad bit earlier, but we'll open it up again. And where the Big Tree Tech Mantas, you can actually mount a CB1 or a Raspberry Pi CM4 on. This board actually has a spot over here where you can mount a full-size Raspberry Pi or Pi alternative that use the same mounting pattern, or a Raspberry Pi Zero, either at the top or at the bottom. So it all depends on what you want to do. And it comes with a cord, so you would actually power your board through UART directly off of the board here, but you've got your 5 TMC 2209s, your two 5160s, which can take up to 46 volts. And this is a fairly chunky board. You know, it's even got the heat sinks on the back plane here. But it's a fairly chunky board. It's beautifully made, and this is I'm not sure who made this for LDO, but this is in conjunction with Voron. They did check with the Voron crew. They worked with the Voron crew to come up with this. So you do see the Voron and stuff on here. And it is very well made board. I look forward to playing with this in the not too distant future on something. Don't know what. We'll put that over there. Let me see what's next. We got our 4 rails in. Ooh, we'd be on to the x-axis. So before we go there, let's go over to the full display. Once again, I needed to sit down for a couple of seconds and let my lower back rest a bit. Yeah, a spiritual successor to the Taco Raven, which was a board that was designed and developed by the Voron team for the initial Vorons. Um, um, I don't have a Kraken on order yet, but yes, I may be getting a Kraken. Hey, Aaron, how's it going? So the 5160 may be spec to go up to 60 volt, and it depends. Okay, the ones that are on the Leviathan, I'll have to look at them. But if you get like a standard step stick form factor, you're probably not going to want to put 60 volts into it. And then the other side of that is like the ones that you get in the VZBot, where you've got that separate breakout for the 5160. You may be able to run those at 60 volts. Most of us are going to run them at 48 volts. And even at 48 volts, the limiting factor is not going to be the 5160. The limiting factor is going to be the stepper motor itself. Yeah. Get back to work. You're not allowed to sit and and rest. Exactly, Tactile. Welcome on in. Welcome on in, by the way. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to sit real fast and take a quick look at the Fabrico site. Once again, this is an Annex Engineering K3 kit, Rev 1.2 compatible from Fabrico. It's the Honey Badger set. They do have, LDO style rails. They do have some other things that you can get. This is a full kit. So it does come with the long boy motors with the long shafts, so I don't have to use like the couplers and all that funkiness. The Sherpa, now funny enough, if you buy the Sherpa here, this is a standard Sherpa. And it's a standard Sherpa with the SLS printed body. Here's the FISEC Sherpa, the metal CNC Sherpa. I've got 2 of these. You can't use them. because you have to use the mirrored body style on your K3, which means instead of having your idler on the right side, the idler needs to be on the left side. So I just had to print all the stuff to flip mine because I had, like I said, I had 2 of the aluminum Sherpa minis, and I had a couple of Sherpa mini bodies set up like regular. So I had to go and get that squared away. Thanks to Poity for reminding me that and pointing that out to me. The Core XYs are so nice. And the nice thing with the Core XYs, whatever size the printer is, that's the size of the footprint you need. With a bed slinger, you always need more front to back for movement of that bed. And then seeing people with the Comgrow T500, so it's a 500 by 500 bed. That thing, I mean, it's massive when you start looking at the full front to back movement of the bed, right? Well, yeah, it's the heat as well, but it's going to be a limiting factor of your stepper motors as well. You seem to be having no luck with your BF orders, no matter whom it's from. Big Tree Tech via Ollie, KB3D, West 3D, all have been resolved to my satisfaction. Just find it funny. No luck with your BF orders. What do you mean by BF, Kit Skyfire? Oh, Black Friday orders? Got you. That makes sense. Hey, KB3D Chris, how's it going? See, somebody said they had an issue with you, and then boom, you're there. Oh, thanks, Tactile. Yeah, it's I love doing these builds, and I love that I'm able to work with the different vendors and bring you some of these builds. And I'll tell you, a lot of these, they're not. I'm buying all these kits. The only ones that I haven't bought recently was the V0 that KB3D sponsored that we shipped up to Free Heathen, and Chewy's build because, well, Chewy's paying for that. I'm just building it. I just haven't told them I'm going to charge them like by the hour. So I'll hold it hostage till he pays me for my time. And yes, Chewy, I'm just giving you crap because I can. So we got the metal motor mounts, which are really going to help. I am going to use the Constellation Supernovas, or at least I'm planning on using the Constellation Supernovas. I do have some 5160 drivers coming from Chris for those, as well as some TMC 2209s. I didn't even know they had titanium backers for it, but not that I'm going to use them. The other thing that I was looking at potentially grabbing would be the wiring harness and checking into that, because they do have various wiring harnesses. I do have the distribution PCB. I do have the toolhead PCB. Those come in the kit. I just have not seen any physical wiring. And you know me, if I can buy the wiring kit and everything's pre-made to length and crimped, so I don't have to crimp it. By the way, I am having eye surgery again tomorrow. The nicer it is for me. Call it lazy or whatever. You got the panels, now you just need a frame to put them on. That's a good way of ordering it. No worries, Chewy. I know where you live now. I got your address. I like doing my own wiring too, Aaron, but there's times when, like a linear wiring harness just makes life easier, right? Um, yeah, yeah. Doing an LDO kit that's got a full, basically linear wire harness that's just plug and play just makes that part of the build so much easier. I have wired up a lot of my stuff. That's not a problem. It's really not a problem to do the wiring. It's just there's times like with the complexity of some of the builds that just having a wiring harness just makes life easier. Oh, Chewy, Chewy, you don't even know, dude. I literally have slept in my chair at work. I've slept under my desk at work. If I'm lucky, I had a cot, you know. But then again, I was younger like you, so I could do things like that. Yeah, that's basically like three panels, right? So you've got two full panels and then a ring edge that mounts between them, and it makes it a double pane. But yeah, this is something I may look at doing. I haven't yet fully decided if I'm going to do this or if I'm just going to go ahead and make my own. But yeah, that's where we got the kit from. Um, and so yeah. So what's up next? XY Gantry. So I'm going to take the printer and we're just going to set that on the ground. Once again, it's upside down. And when we build the XY gantry, we're actually going to mount it in the printer in this orientation because it's going to be easier to mount things. In fact, I may not sit that on the ground because we may wind up just building it in place. Um, so let me grab a bag of parts. And there are so many printed parts. Oh my God. So this is my XY gantry and it's got the carriage pieces. So I'll be digging through here to find different parts. And one thing to be aware of is you've got standard, you'll have two standard and then two mirrored. So make sure you grab the right ones at the right time. So we'll need those. We're going to need these things. And we're going to need, where's those? Those. Okay, that'll be it. So there's various parts in here. Um, some from the XY gantry. Some will be for, these are actually for the motors. Um, some will be for your hot end. And of course, some of these I've got doubles of because there's parts for M5 and M6 screws, depending on which ones you're using. So there's a few of them that I printed off with both because I hadn't opened the kit to actually look and see what size I grabbed. And now I know they're M5s. Um, okay, get that out of the way. Put these back over there out of the way. Okay. So looking at our parts, we're just going to look for orientation. So heat set, 3 screws, opening, flip it over, 1, 2, opening. This is the one that we're going to use. And as I noted, there's a spot for a heat set insert. You need to make sure that you put the heat set in there. And so we're going to go through and we're going to put heat sets in all 4 of these. So we've got it out of the way. We use our heat set once and hopefully be done for a short period. So we'll look ahead a little bit and see where we're going to need to use them. Things out of the way. So Chris, how are you doing today? All right, I saw you pop in, but I hadn't really said hi. So we've got heat sets that go in here, and then we're going to need heat sets that go into the ends of these. And we need to see which ones we need. We need the M3 by 5 by 6 for all of these. And I say that because there's, I believe, 3 different sizes of heat set inserts in here. These are our M354s. A few of those, a few of these out here, and then they start running away on me. We're nice and warmed up on our stealth press. I'll actually set this over here out of the way. You can watch me use the stealth press, which we did not build from a KB3D kit because, well, we built it from self-source because we had all the parts here. It was just easier that way. I'm just making sure that we're nice and flush with these. We'll have to keep an eye out if there's any need to countersink any of these a little ways. And Chris, I see that you got your TS, was it the 101s or the 100s in? I know you opened one up and was testing it out in yours. And when are those going to make it into the store? There's those 4. Now we're going to need to do these. Web server is returning an unknown. Uh-oh. Is there an issue with the feed? I'm sorry, with the feed, with the stream? Oh, so Kit Skyfire followed me 31 minutes ago. The only thing I can think of is that's the area where the alerts would be for stream elements. And I'm not sure. Let me see if I change scenes real fast, if it'll fix it. Hmm. There we go. I just need to refresh the cache of that page. It hung for some reason. Yep, it was just an issue with the cache page. So I'm gonna have to sit this on top of something because these are so small parts and there's a hole in the bottom there, which is there for a reason. I just need to sit these on top of another part that I know is going to be flat so I can push these directly in. And I know that you guys probably can't see this very well. And there's an ever so slight angle to these parts, so be cognizant of that as well. Bring you guys over here and show you this way. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm going to get this set up. And I'm just using this as a flat because of, the guide hole there. So I'm just going to use this as a flat to bring this down on there. And once again, this piece has got a little bit of an angle to the printed piece. I'm going to get it close and then finish it off just by pressing it against the edge of my metal bench. Now give us a nice flat edge there. Thanks for noticing that and making a comment, Hit Skyfire. Oh, what game was it recommending on the adverts? Is that butter? No, this is, so the colors you're seeing here, this is Sparta 3D Sparkle Limebot Green, polycarbonate ABS. So the color scheme for this printer is a Silverstone gray frame, a the primary color is going to be Sparta 3D Sparkle Obsidian Black. Once again, PC ABS, and then PC Sparkle Limebot Green. I think that's all we're going to need for now. So I'm going to put this out of the way so I don't burn myself, or hopefully not step on it. I'll shut this camera back off, and we'll come back to the main camera over here. And we'll move this back over here. Okay, so we've got, which one of these? We're going to be looking at it like this. We've got the 3 holes, the heat set insert, the relief cut that we'll put a belt through, and then the tensioning mechanism that'll go in here. So we've got our heat set insert in. We're going to flip it over like this, and we're going to use one of our belts with the heat set facing out towards us and the teeth to the inside over here. We're going to slide that in, and through this hole we're going to bring a M3x40 socket head cap screw. By 50, where's the M3x40s? M3x40. They're M5. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah. Yeah, no eating filament. That's all, it depends. You could eat your cocoa press filament technically. I'm gonna get 4 of these out now because I know I'm gonna need them. Pretty tight. I want to go ahead and ream this. So this printed up like this. I am going to want to ream these holes out to make sure that they are nice and good and easy for our screws to go in. So I'll do that by hand. I threw my patty of butter away. Like I said, technically you can eat your cocoa press filament, as Liz. It's actually a lot deeper hole than I thought. There we go. Come back here and fix this one all the way through. You chew on ABS often, you don't recommend it? So why are you chewing on ABS? You don't like standard PET G? Probably why my thumbs are so chewed up is doing things like this. Like, hey, let me hold the sharp-edged object and try and hold it still so I can fix this plastic piece. When it's not like I don't have a drill sitting right down there, you know? I'm not going to go all the way through these. I just want to get the ends started a little bit. Because once again, these printed standing up. So I may have a slight bit of elephant's foot on them. Leave that stuff down there for now. So once again, where were we? Right here. We're going to put the M3 by, what is that, 40 socket head cap screw in there. Gotcha. Well, it's going to tell me to do this, and then watch. It's going to tell me to basically take it back out at some point to run the belts. And I'll be a little miffed. So we're going to bring our printer back up. And at some point, we're probably going to want to mark like front or back or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of tape, just a random piece of tape, not that one, because I can tell that I was using that one for whatchamacallit, filament E-steps. I'm going to take a piece of tape and we're just going to set it like boom right there. This is going to tell us that this is our front, right? Front. Which means if that's front, then this is X. Or no, this is X. This will be Y. Right? So we're working on the X gantry, which is These ones. And what I need to do is figure out which. Oh, that's awesome. So it's actually saying that the X would be front, yeah, front and rear, right? No? Where'd I put my, yeah, here's my tape, front and rear. So what I was looking for is which way my carriage goes on which side. The angle through, so the angle is facing towards the outer edge of the printer. So if it's mounting this way, then it's going to be on this side that it's going to line up to. That way I know how I'm installing it on the carriage. Everybody tracking? You know, that was just a little bit hard for me, but um so this gets installed and we use one M5 by 10 socket head cap screw. M5 by 10, M3 by 10 socket head cap screw. Jesus, Luke. Here's my M3 by 10s because I know I have 4 carriages here, so chances are I'm going to wind up using all 4 of those. One M3 by 10. We're going through plastic and into metal. It looks like it goes directly through the countersunk or counterboard hole. Okay. It's going to go through the counterboard hole and into the MGN 9C. Gracious, why am I having such a hard time? There we go. We've got that side in. Now we're going to take one of our carriage black pieces. Okay. You're using PLA Pro Army Beige for gingerbread. That'll work. That'll work. So we're going to need to put a M3 square nut, an M3 by 16 socket head cap screw through the top, and then we need to press in a 6 by 3 round magnet. It's going to be interesting. So this is what's going to hold our linear rail in place on the carriage. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so we need M3 square nut. 6x3 magnets, which are down here with the M3x45s. And for future reference for this build, folks, I'm just going to pull this out and our magnets are going to just be stuck to the workbench there. That'll make it easier. Square nuts, square nuts. There we go. So I'll need a square nut. And once again, I know I'm going to wind up needing at least 4 of those. So we're going to bring those 4 out. Square nuts went right there. And I need M3x16. M3x16 socket head cap screw. Let me turn this way so it might be easier for me to see. M3x16 socket head cap. And once again, we're going to wind up needing 4 of those probably. We need 3 M3x25 and an M3x20. M320. Now, in relation to these, I'm just going to do 2 for now because I have a feeling that we may wind up using something different. And we'll talk about why here in a second. Okay, so now I think we got all of our parts laid out. We're going to need an M3 square nut. It'll go in the slot there. A M3x16 socket head cap screw that goes through the printed part into this M3 nut. So just like that. Then we're going to put one of our magnets down in here. And it doesn't say anything about polarity of the magnet. Don't think it's going to much matter. So I know I want it to attract to the rail, so I'm going to figure out whichever way it doesn't matter. So we need to set it down in that hole there. So slide it in, press it down in there. I'm going to take my finger and put it there, and I'm just going to run my screw until I feel it kind of bite. And I'm going to hold off there. Because what it's going to happen is we're going to put our rail in here, and then we'll tighten the screw down against that magnet, which is going to hold that rail from moving around. Okay. And then we're following our orientation. Here's our tensioning insert. There's our original M3. That's going to go right over, our hole for our rail is going to go over that. And so that's how we're going to line up. And we're going to do M3x25, so our longer screws. We're going to need 3 of those, and it tells us to use our Loctite. It actually calls for VC3. Not sure what the difference is there, but I'm going to apply just a little bit of Loctite here. Of course, I probably should have cleared these holes out beforehand. It reminded me to clear all of the M3 holes out throughout the carriage on all the other ones before we get into them. We got our M3x25 screw, put just a little bit of our Loctite on the threads. Now, normally I would be really leery about putting Loctite through threads like this. You could literally get your carriage all set up and then work Loctite on it. However, once again, this is PCABS. So polycarbonate is resistant. So we should be good to go. So we've got our 3 M3x25s. We've got our 1 M3x8 screw already locked down. I'm going to put these 3 in. Apply a little bit of torque. And we're not trying to really break anything. Make sure everything still slides well. And then we're going to need our shorter M3x20. This also gets a little bit of Loctite on it. And this is going into the bottom of the lime green plastic part. This is why it's shorter, and it's going into the heat set insert that we put in. So and there is, once again, torque values that we would do into this, right? They've got separate torque values for going through plastic into metal and then through plastic into a heat set insert, because you don't want to torque it to the same amount, because here you're just worried about squishing and breaking the plastic. Here it's not just breaking the plastic, but stripping the heat set insert out of the plastic. Okay, and once again, what I'm going to do is clean all the holes out here, just to make sure they're clear before I start putting the next truck together, just to make life easier. Hey Chris, did you cover me in those last two shipments? You should hopefully know what I mean by that. And if I need to mute my mic while I do this, please let me know. You've got the servo dock for your clicky or for your switch wire. Okay, there we go. We got that stuff done. Now on to the other side. We're going to construct the mirrored component. So basically, we're going to look at this one and do the mirror opposite of it. So just basically do the mirror. We're going to need one of these. Once again, the teeth on it go towards the flat side. No, not the flat side. The inside goes towards the inside. And we'll put an M3 by 40 into it. I've got the side swipe probe, which is basically a clicky and a side swipe with a servo, and I never installed it. And it's just one of those things of I just never felt the need for it. Oh, I was simply stating that you have the clicky probe on your switch wire. I don't know. I guess well, on the switch wire, I'm just using on both my switch wires. I'm using the standard, was it the PL04 or PN04 or whatever probe, and then on yeah on words are hard sometimes. On most of my others, I think I've pretty much just gone to tap. So I'm using the uh, nozzle probing basically, and it just works well for me actually. So we've got this set up, the M3 by 40 going through there. It's an M3 by 10 that initially holds us in place. We've got our M3 by 10, and this particular M3 does not use any Loctite. It's just a matter of trying to get it lined up so that it goes into the hole. There we go. Then we'll need the opposite of this one. Be this set up. And we're going to go with a square nut into the slot. The M3 by 16 into said square nut. One of our M6 by 3 magnets. Going to pop down in there. Oh, it's going to look just like that. Magnet, flat nut, or square nut, and the M3 by 16. Okay. And before I put this in there, it's going to be easier for me to get my rail slipped in there without tacking this down. So the rail is the M300 MGN9C. Let me grab those. These are our M300 MGN9Cs. We're probably going to have to do a little bit of cleaning on them as well. So let me set that thing aside while we get these open. I'm not going to get another set of gloves. We're just going to hope and pray that I'll grab gloves, at least one. We got it. Good. Look, Liz, another set of gloves. Always a crazy stream here where we got rails and balls and lube and hopefully we're going to get at least one of our rails put on tonight. And we'll see about if we do both or just one. Because I did realize it's 8:30. So it's getting a little bit long. Like I said, I'm going to have an early morning tomorrow and an eventful morning at that. I have never been at a place for a surgery where I get taken like 6 different places in the building because you walk in, you check in, they take you to a waiting room, you sit down, they take me from there and they check eye pressures in the eye and make sure there's no issues that morning with the eye that they're going to be doing surgery on, and that they have all the specs and stuff they need to do the surgery. And then they take me to a different waiting room at a different part of the building. And then there we go. Then I'll sit there and I'll wait and I'll wait and I'll wait. And they'll take me back. And this guy or gal is just checking out that, oh, you're getting this type of drops or you're getting the multiple different drops. Okay, here, pay for them. Ooh, I'm glad I checked these. Doesn't look like it got into the balls very well. And then We go back to that waiting room. Then another person will come and get me. And I'm like, how many? It's just like, yeah. And we're all over this facility. It's not like it's going back to the same waiting room and then just going to different offices. It is literally different parts of the facility. So you're walking all the way around the facility. It's just kind of crazy. What I'm doing is just using that excess grease that was poked into the hole, and I'm trying to add it in here to these ball bearings. Make sure and turn it back around the right way. Yeah, that part's going to be interesting and fun. Yep, living in the balls. Being the rails and living the balls. Wasn't bad, but we definitely needed to disperse some of that EP2 a little bit better into the carriage itself. And there's definitely enough to go around, that's for sure. All right, Liz. Kevin's going to be upset that he missed me lubing my balls and rails again. I haven't seen him around here. Yeah, normally, I mean, I go in, you talk to the financial people to make sure that you can cover your part of whatever the insurance isn't covering. And then it's like bada bing, bada boom. You're going back and, they're doing your, all right, they do your vitals and stuff, and you're ready to go pretty much. Pop your IV, and then you're off to the races. Here it was like all over the place. And I wouldn't mind it so much if it was just going back to the same waiting room and then going to a different office for the next step. But it's completely different waiting rooms, completely different areas of the facility. It was like, man, I'd be lost trying to, it'd take me like a week and a half to learn my way around the darn place if I worked there. And I've worked in some jacked up places in the military. And they're like that for a reason because, if you're in the wrong place, they're going to know it. Okay. We've got that done. And our rail for the X, construct the mirrored component of the X axis using the parts that have been mirrored and utilize the identical hardware as demonstrated. Okay. And we're going to mount a rail. So prior to fully mounting the X-axis onto the frame, begin by installing the M300 MGN9C rail for the tool head with the cart facing towards the ground. And by cart, they mean our carriage. And the face of our carriage here needs to be facing the ground. This is the ground, right? We're on the top of our printer, so this is the ground. So we're going to mount it so that our rail will go through that slot, which currently is a little right squished. A couple of these. I apparently forgot to wipe the grease off this, so now I have grease on my hands. There we go. So we get that pushed in there. We'll get that in the ready position. That still feels like it's not in there nearly enough. There we go. That should be good. All right. Now we've got our other cart. It's going to be a little bit easier because we're just going to mount it right over the top of said rail. And make sure that it's pushed in all the way. Then we'll be able to line that up. And our hardware was three M3 by 25s, and then the one that's the odd man out is going to be the M3 by 20. And we're going to make sure to put some Loctite on here at the very base of the screw. I'm not going to tighten it all the way. Okay. And I'm just going to move it back and forth and kind of let that rail center itself before I lock anything down. Oh yes, there is a lot of rails here. A lot of rails. So the cart facing towards the ground. It is advised not to tighten the bolts that secure the tool head rail completely at this point. Make sure it's pointing down at the floor. Once again, this is the floor because we have the printer upside down. And we don't want to tighten these down yet. So it's still a bit free floating. And then next up, we'll be building the Y gantry, and it's going to be built fairly similar, except we're going to have some thick standoff blocks. And that's going to raise the cross rail up higher some here. And go ahead and pop these off, maybe. So I don't forget them later on. Okay, so for our y-axis, and I want to see, I need to kind of see the orientation when this gets mounted. So here's my x-axis, my y-axis. So this is front. Here, let me do it this way. Once again, this is the front. This is rear. Yeah. And when I go to build these, the carts, once again, the angled edge goes to the outside. So these are going to sit like that. So it's, you really have to take a while and look at the diagrams to fully understand how they're getting set in here. So once again, let me go full display. And sorry, folks, I'm sorry I haven't been paying attention to chat. You're back from the shadow, zombie. Okay. I think cross gantry was designed by a manufacturer of rails. It just uses so many. Exactly. So the standard XY gantry of a Voron uses 3 rails. 2 on the Y, 1 on the X. This, you have a X rail, a Y rail, and then 4 rails that those X and Y rails run on. So you've got 3 rails on X and 3 rails on Y, basically. So it's a lot of rails. It really is. But you really have to take a look at your diagram here. And so this is the X carriage that we have in place. The Y carriage is the one that's kind of highlighted in whatever this magenta is. And it, once again, the angled cutouts on our carriage carts go towards the outside. So that's the best way I can tell you. And I'm trying to, once again, the angled pieces go towards the outside, and the it looks like the heat set inserts go towards the front of the printer, looking at this diagram. So that tells me that they go in this orientation versus this orientation. So we got to make sure that they're in the right orientation, because that will come into play when we do our belts. And if we don't have everything in the right orientation, then we're going to be going through and redoing work. which I don't mind necessarily doing. We just, we're going through and we're making sure and checking. So we're going to start off with this one, right? So we got a heat set insert. We're going to take our belt tensioner and the teeth go towards the center. We're going to slide this in. We're going to use an M3 by 40 socket head cap screw, just like we did on the other two. And we screw, screw, and we screw, and we screw. Yeah, so we have 6 rails for X and Y, and we haven't even started with the Z yet. Got a whole nother set of rails for the Z. Okay, almost in. And while we're at it, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing over on the other piece there. Okay. And then we decided this. Oh, these are the outside. These go towards. Yeah, these are going to go like that. Um, it shows using an M3 by 30. Let's find our M3 by 30s. 3 by 30s back here. Socket head cap screws. And we're going to go through the truck, once again, through that center hole that's been counterbored. We're going to go through that truck. We're going to go through one of these spacers. Now, these spacers are angled. We want the smaller side towards the carriage itself. So just line the holes up in the appropriate direction. And get that one lined up. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Hey, Tech Jeeper, welcome on in. Welcome on in. And that's where it says, please consult the page 26 to find the instructions on how the block should be mounted to the appropriate rail on the frame. In that case, it says 26. Once again, it shows the angled pieces out to the side. Our tightening, tensioning mechanisms are towards the middle. So that's how we're going to go on there. Bum, 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 bum. Now we need to go ahead and build these two little trucks. Are going to be built exactly the same way. So we take our little M3 square nut and force it into the slot. Make sure it gets lined up. M3 by 16. We'll grab one of our M6 by 3 magnets and drop it down there. So we're looking just like that. That'll be one. We'll do the other one. And I'm basically just setting the M3 by 16 so that it's right at the end of the printed part where it's close to where it would hit the magnet, backing things off. We'll grab another M3 by 6 magnet. Drop it in there. Push it in place. And understanding that these pieces are going, the screw on these pieces are towards the something doesn't feel right. Or it may just be that it just doesn't look right, which is the screws, it's where that screw looks like it's hitting that just looks weird. It looks like it's not in the right place, but it is. So once again, we've got 3 M3 by 45 screws. I think I was missing one somewhere. Add that one in there before I forget. This would be one of those things where having the stainless steel screws would kind of pop out a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to need 2 more M3 by 20s. Three by 20s. We need 2 more of these. And we'll need 6 M3 by 45s. Because these are going to go all the way through the trucks and into the carriages themselves. And once again, before I put these on. Now, the way this works is the X, which this rail is going front to back, but will slide side to side there. This one faces down. The Y rail that we're going to put in is facing up. So it's the opposite direction for this one. I'm basically just going to pop these in at the full ends. Put it on the trucks there. And we're going to go, the M3 by 45s are going to go through 3 of these that'll line up with the truck. And then the one that's in front of the rail is the M3 by 20, which is going into our Limebot green piece instead of all the way down and into the actual carriage. Okay. Oops. There we go. We're just getting some thread locker on the very last few threads. And once again, we're using PC ABS, so I'm not too concerned about these falling apart or cracking because Loctite can interact with ABS and ASA in an adverse manner. So just something to be cognizant about. I'm confident that I won't have an issue, but at the same time, I'm also confident that I may just go ahead and reprint parts in like PC CF. Just to have in case any parts do fail. I mean, never hurts to be prepared, right? Yeah, so like I said though, this build compared to a standard Voron, I'm already twice the number of rails for the X and Y. Z will be Z. I mean, that should be the same regardless, but it's already just like a lot of rails in this. And good rails aren't cheap either. Those first three were our M3 by 45s. This is an M3 by 20. Once again, it just goes down to the bottom of the lime green truck. And we're just going to take this, slide it back and forth a few times. And once again, right now, everything is still relatively free floating. We haven't tightened down any of the trucks fully yet. Any of the trucks, we haven't tightened down the locking mechanisms for the rails. We're just simply laying everything in there at the moment. Verify the X and Y mounting orientation before continuing. Once again, we're going to flip this back over. And which side did we say was our front? Where's our tape? Oh, tape will be at the bottom. So this is the front facing me. So this is our X rail, because it's going left to right, and it's facing down. This is our Y rail, goes front to back, and that's facing up. So we'll come back here and take one more look. So front to back, our X faces down, our Y faces up to the sky. So we have our X and Y's in the appropriate location. And I say that, and as I look at these, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at our diagram, and I think our Y rail needs to rotate 180 degrees. Because this is our well, let me double check that. So this is our X. Our X with our slants facing towards the right. And now this puts our slants facing towards the front. So I did the easy thing. I just moved the tape. So why so many rails? So this is what we call a cross gantry XY. And what's going to happen is we're going to have a piece that mounts to both the X and the Y. So there's going to be a plastic piece that mounts to both the X and the Y rails here. And so these rails need to be able to move on something, which means other rails. So this is an interesting design, and it does wind up having twice as many rails as you would normally have in a Core XY. As you use 3 per side, where on a Core XY, you'd have 2 on the Y and 1 on the X. So it's just a different type of gantry system. Now the next step up is going to be doing our motors, and that's where we'll get into our pretty motor plates. However, it's 9 o'clock, and I think I'm going to call it quits for the night because I've got to get up early in the morning for my surgery. So we're going to call it good. We're at a natural stopping place. Sort of. Where's my M3 by 10? We're at a natural stopping place. We're, a different section of the manual. So we're going to go ahead and call it quits here, and we're going to find somebody to go raid into. And I'm going to ask Zombie or Liz, do we know when Zombie's starting? Has he started? Is he going to start soon? Because he's doing the Micron build. Just going to go ahead and get things tidied up here. We will be working on this again on Thursday, so it's going to stay right here. We're not going to mess with anything. Another 50 for Zombie. Well, we ain't making it another hour to make it to Zombie, so we'll have to raid into somebody else. Thank you, Hybrid Robotics. It should. I mean, everything went well on the first go. I don't see anything being different or an issue for the second go. It's the exact same procedure, so it shouldn't be any issue. 1 hour. Yep. No, I'll have to bang over to somebody else. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, quite honestly, it feels like running around and doing all the paperwork and then, getting back there, having to sign more paperwork, sitting back there in the bed, and then trying to find a vein is the hardest part. Like the actual surgery feels like it's like that. And I'm not fully knocked out. Like I kind of see and feel what they're doing. So it's not like I'm completely and fully knocked out for it. But let's see. Let's see who we have going today. I see Astro Connect, the Jang, Babe Ross, Ocadrian, Uzi Pinoy, and that's just the 5 they give me. Let's go back and check regular Twitch out and see what we see. Okay, I see Creatix Brit on, Buana, Maple Mustafa is playing Cyberpunk. Foxhole, I have no idea what that is. But that looks like gaming. Fortnite. All right, let's go over and raid it into Creatix Brit. Thank you all for being over here. That has been so great having you guys here hanging out with me. This is a really, really interesting build. I'm really want to see once we start building in the motors and getting everything else done here on the top. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So once again, thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to go ahead and initiate the raid. Please go with me over to Creatix Brit's channel and wish her the best. And, go check out Zombie Hedgehog tonight as he does begins his Micron build. Thank you for all the best wishes for tomorrow. I will see you all again Thursday, and we'll do a little bit, even if it's just doing the 4 motors and calling it quits at that point, right? I just don't want to stress my eyes too much on Thursday. But thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you guys later. Take it easy. Thank you for the subs and the biddies and the mini hype train to start the stream. I really appreciate it. Take it easy. See y'all again on Thursday.